A thankful heart never fails to enjoy more of life's blessings. My guest is grateful for the little things in everyday life since she came so close to losing hers. Lin Lockamy is here from Williamsville, New York, to tell her wonderful story. It's now recorded in her book, Grace by Which I Stand. On March 28, 2006, Lin, you weren't expected to have a leg to stand on.
No.
Tell us what happened.
I dropped my son off at school early one morning and thought I was coming home, and it was at a stoplight. And as I proceeded, a truck was careening out of control. It was that fresh rain in the morning, and he skidded, and we collided slightly off center. His truck was slightly lower than my Expedition, and so he sent me airborne 180 degrees, and I came down on top of another Expedition, crushing him, and he carried me another block and flipped me over against a brick wall. And we were trapped there for 90 minutes.
2 white Expeditions.
Yes.
And a pickup truck.
Yes.
Your legs were under the dashboard?
Yes, the dashboard severed my legs internally, and there was another piece of wreckage that held my right ankle. And so because I was up against a brick wall and that had collapsed, there were some difficulties in the rescue. They actually used 2 jaws of life that did nothing because the wreckage was at such extreme speed that it was just devastated. And they, because of a time frame in a rescue, they really don't like you trapped more than 60 minutes. I was under 90 minutes. They tried so hard not to take my legs, but they got to a point where they were going to do it. And my rescuer that was by my side the entire time just wasn't going to let it happen. And they finally figured out how to release the metal around the ankle and got me out. And then I was life-flighted to Herman
Hospital. Oh, it is really a drama, just reading it. You're a little breathless. Your daughter would pass this accident.
She did.
Hoping to be an EMT. She's a doctor today.
She is.
But how traumatic for her.
It was, and I didn't realize, of course, all the information that came to me later. But she, as a senior in high school, just 2 months away from graduating, was training to be an EMT. She was the last car they let through before they blocked the roadway. She made a phone call to me because she felt that it was me, and I didn't answer. So she was panicked, but she was on duty, so she went on.
Now there's someone who wasn't panicked in the midst of this. Stunningly, you. You even had a sense that you would walk again. Tell us what was happening in your experience.
I just felt right from the beginning so blessed and so calm. You know, there's day-to-day challenges, obviously. There were hordes of people helping in any way, shape, and form. That taking my children, making dinners. It was an army of people helping. But
you were on a prayer chain before you ever got out of the vehicle. That's pretty amazing.
That was the most calming factor that I had. I didn't know until the next morning, but I was on prayer chains throughout the country by that evening.
But you had this calm, and it's not rational. Where was your faith in this?
I grew up with a lot of faith, but it was a very quiet faith. It wasn't something that I talked about. It wasn't something that you really live. I grew up in a Roman Catholic household, and it was strong but quiet. And so I've asked my children, has something really changed? They just said, well, you're a whole lot louder now than you ever were before.
So many things. Mary Beth Chapman was an encouragement to you. It was a radio broadcast. What spoke to you in her testimony?
Well, people ask, did you wonder why you got hit? And absolutely, I know. I just wanted to do whatever it was I was supposed to do with whatever was going to unfold. And years later, Mary Beth Chapman was doing an interview at a local Christian radio station, and they asked her the same question after she lost a child. And her answer was, I only hope I steward this message well. And I thought that's exactly the term that I would use. She was blessed, like I was, to not struggle with the day-to-day hardships, but look to, now what do I do with this?
And this is what you say in the book. Your passion became discovering your life's purpose. And out of that, you say walking in faith is a daily choice. You refer to the accident as a blow to the head, a wake-up call.
Yes.
Just living with a new sensitivity, expecting God in every moment of your day.
It is. It's an awesome place to be, and you just wish that everybody else could understand that without having to get hit by a truck. I think it is a definite choice. It's a struggle. You know, everything happens to me like it happens to you. But to be able to learn when you meet someone and see the pieces fit together, and sometimes they fit together today, sometimes it takes years or months, it's a great blessing to be able to see just how it all works together.
Now, I don't want to paint this a cakewalk, because you say in the book, I chose not to focus on the uglies. There were uglies
Sure.
in this. I mean, you just look fantastic. I asked if you have any pain. Your legs, there were a lot of injuries. Well, maybe why don't you tell us?
The legs were severed internally. The bones were broken. One of the legs was almost completely open. I broke 8 ribs, collapsed a lung, broken arm.
Crushed ankle. Which one?
Crushed ankle, my right ankle.
Your right ankle, yeah.
Which actually looks almost normal to you today.
Wow.
It's amazing.
It really is. And this notion that you would walk again. A friend got you into aquatic physical therapy, which I think was one of the very best things that could have happened. You were home for Easter that April.
Yes.
In a wheelchair.
Yes.
And that would be your lot for a while. I think your daughter's graduation, you were in a wheelchair when she graduated from high school.
I was. At that point, they didn't expect that I would ever walk.
The doctors told you you wouldn't walk.
Yes.
You never doubted.
No. No.
So have I got the date right here? August 24th, 2006, you walked without a walker.
I did. I did. The doctor sat me down and said, here's a walker. You've got 30 days. Try and walk. I want to see if you can try and do it. And after 4 days, it was so frustrating. I put the walker aside and had an island in the kitchen and walked around the entire island. Then I walked again, and then I made some frantic phone calls to say, I'm walking again, and I know you're not believing this, but I'm really walking. And so that afternoon, it was wonderful because my husband finally answered the phone. It was one of the days he didn't answer. And my neighbor answered. She came and got me. We walked down the driveway, and at that point, my husband came screeching down the street, and I just said hello, and he said, stand there. He backed up the car so that I could walk down the street to him so he could watch me walk. It was just awesome.
Precious moment.
It was.
And you seemed, am I exaggerating? You seemed desperate to get to those rescuers to tell them your story.
Yes.
Not just to thank them, but you really wanted to honor God's faithfulness in their hearing.
Absolutely. I think, and unbeknownst to me, a lot of individuals that have been helped, whether it's paramedics or firefighters or officers, don't ever get the opportunity to thank them. And I know when I went back, I didn't realize who all was involved, and I kind of thought that they probably forgot who I was, not realizing that it's life-changing for them as well. The gentleman that sat next to me had an incredibly difficult year. They don't know, they knew I survived, and that's all they knew. They're not privy to the information.
Oh.
So it's really sad to see.
You would think they'd really want to know. Like
They
need
do.
to know.
But they can't get the information.
Oh. Well, thank God you were diligent and did get to them and did wear heels.
Oh, always.
Really?
Yes.
Heels?
Heels. They're more comfortable than flats for me.
That's crazy.
Well, some of the smaller injuries is the muscles to the big toes are severed, so it can be difficult to walk in bare feet or flats. So heels actually are easier for me.
And that's not the only big surprise. Tell us about the Houston Half Marathon, Lynn.
Somebody had asked me if I would run in the marathon, and obviously for a minute they didn't realize I can't run. And then I thought about it and thought, you know, I can walk, because the half marathon, actually, they allow walkers as long as you finish in 4 hours. And so I thought, you know, maybe I could do this. And the first day that I trained, I had great difficulty walking about a half mile and thought, you know, maybe I can't do this, but I don't kind of know how to give up very well. So I trained and walked. It was an awesome experience.
Spiritual and emotional reconstruction. That's your label for what God permitted in your life.
Absolutely.
So how is life different today on the other side of this, besides all these great accomplishments?
How would I say this? To live with intention, to pay attention in the quiet moments, to appreciate that all God has supplied, but then the opportunities to step back, and as you meet people and you converse, listen to their stories.
Yeah, that's a big point you make in the book. You're spending a lot of time just meeting people and sharing faith stories.
Always, always.
What a great way to spend your time.
It is. It's fabulous. We met someone in the hotel this morning and gave them the books. It's amazing to me. When I wrote the book, I didn't write it as, I don't have a journalism background. I never intended to write a book.
You're a real estate agent.
Yes. I just felt that this was something I would do. And when it was published, I was a little panicked that someone might actually read it because it wasn't something I really thought about. So as I get feedback now since it's published, it's touching to me that people are actually reaching out, giving me the feedback of what part of the story made sense to them, or that they'll repeat a lesson to someone else. And I wrote it to me in a manner that I learn. I learn by someone else's personal experience and very applicable. And so I threw in the Bible verses to help relate the exact biblical lessons, but on a more personal, relatable level to me.
Perfect. I'm going to quote you. I'm learning to stop, listen, and look to see how God masterfully pieces things together every day. What I'm hearing from this journey is it's too soon to quit.
Right.
Whatever life brings, keep moving forward with God and see what He's up to.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a cup half full message, and it's a great one. Grace by which I stand. For it is by grace you have been saved. Lin Lockamy highlights right on the cover. This is at our e-store. Lin, thank you for stopping by.
Oh, thank you for asking.
God bless you. Keep dancing.
Thank you.
Ooh, maybe not in heels.